Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at AQA Alevel Psychology Specimen 1 Paper 2 Exemplar Answers for Researcher Methods, which you need to know for AQA Alevel Psychology. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. Please note that these answers have been produced with knowledge of the mark scheme but have not been approved by the mark scheme themselves. There are 3 assessment objectives, AOs, in psychology. In this video they are color-coded. AO1 Knowledge, purple. AO2 Application, blue. AO3 Evaluation, red and green. Read the item and then answer the questions that follow. A psychologist wanted to see if verbal fluency is affected by whether people think they are presenting information to a small group of people or to a large group of people. The psychologist needed a stratified sample of 20 people. She obtained the sample from a company employing 60 men and 40 women. The participants were told that they would be placed in a booth where they would read out an article about the life of a famous author to an audience. Participants were also told that the audience would not be present, but would only be able to hear them and would not be able to interact with them. There were 2 conditions in the study, Condition A and Condition B. Condition A, 10 participants were told the audience consisted of 5 listeners. Condition B, the other 10 participants were told the audience consisted of 100 listeners. Each participant completed the study individually. The psychologist recorded each presentation and then counted the number of verbal errors made by each participant. Question 1. Identify the independent variable on this study, 2 marks. Number of verbal errors. Question 2. Write a suitable hypothesis for this study, 3 marks. There will be a significant difference in the number of verbal errors made by participants. Work participants believe that there are 5 listeners compared to when participants believe that there are 100 listeners. Question 3. Identify one extraneous variable that the psychologist should have controlled in the study and explain why it should have been controlled. 3 marks. One extraneous variable that the psychologist should have controlled is the difficulty level of the article given to the participants. This needs to be controlled and needs to stay constant to avoid affecting the dependent variable. If some participants were given a more difficult article to read, this would have affected the number of verbal errors they made. All participants should be given the same article of the same level of difficulty. Question 4. Explain one advantage of using a stratified sample of participants in this study. 2 marks. Stratified samples of participants have good population validity. Different subsets of people are represented in the sample in the correct proportions. By dividing the population into strata based on specific characteristics, researchers can obtain a more accurate reflection of the entire population's diversity. This representation allows for findings that can be generalized to the broader population. Question 5. Explain how the psychologist would have obtained the male participants for her stratified sample. Show your calculations. 3 marks. Put all 60 male names in a hat. Determine the proportion of males needed to mirror the number of males in the target population as follows, 60%. Calculate 60% of 20, which is 12, and draw out 12 names from the hat. Question 6. The psychologist wanted to randomly allocate the 20 people in her stratified sample to the 2 conditions. She needed an equal number of males in each condition and an equal number of females in each condition. Explain how she would have done this. 4 marks. Give each man a number between 1 and 12. Put the 12 numbers in a hat. Assign the first 6 numbers drawn to condition A and the remaining 6 numbers to condition B. Repeat the process for the women. Assign each woman a number between 1 and 8. Put the 8 numbers in a hat and draw 4 for condition A and remaining 4 for condition B. Read the item and then answer the questions that follow. Question 7. What conclusions might the psychologist draw from the data in Table 1? Refer to the means and standard deviations in your answer. 6 marks. One conclusion that could be drawn from Table 1 is that when people believe they are presenting to a large audience, they are less fluent in their spoken communication than when they believe the audience is small. This is supported by the difference in the mean fluency scores, which show more verbal mistakes, on average 6 more mistakes, when the audience is believed to be large. Another conclusion that could be drawn from Table 1 is that performances of participants in Condition A where audience is believed to be small are less varied than in Condition B where audience is believed to be large. This is supported by the difference on standard deviation scores, which show a lower standard deviation in Condition A and suggests that individual performances in Condition A were more similar to each other and all quite close to the mean of 11.1. Read the item and then answer the question that follows. The psychologist had initially intended to use the range as a measure of dispersion in this study, but found that one person in Condition A had made an exceptionally low number of verbal errors. 8. Explain how using the standard deviation rather than the range in this situation would improve the study. 3 marks. Using the standard deviation rather than the range in this situation would improve the study because the standard deviation is a measure of dispersion that is less easily distorted by a single extreme score and one that takes account of the distance of all the verbal error scores from the mean, not just the distance between the highest verbal error score and the lowest verbal error score. Question 9. Name an appropriate statistical test that could be used to analyze the number of verbal errors in Table 1. Explain why the test you have chosen would be a suitable test in this case. 4 marks. The appropriate statistical test that could be used to analyze the number of verbal errors in Table 1 is Mann-Whitney U test. This test would be suitable because the investigation is an experiment as the psychologist is looking for a difference between the two conditions. The level of measurement is interval data as the verbal errors can be assumed to be of equal size and the experiment design is independent group as participants only take part in one condition. Question 10. The psychologist found the results were significant at p less than 0.05. What is meant by the results were significant at p less than 0.05? 2 marks. The level of significance in psychology is p less than 0.05 and is the conventional level of probability employed by psychologists to balance the risks of making a type 1 and type 2 error. This means that there is a less than 5% likelihood, probability, that this difference occurred by chance and something other than the experimental manipulation of the 4, and there is a 95% confidence that the research hypothesis and any difference or effect is due to the variables under investigation. Question 11. Briefly explain one method the psychologist could use to check the validity of the data she collected in this study. 2 marks. One method the psychologist could use to check the validity of the data is face validity, which is the extent to which a test or measurement at first sight appears to measure what it claims to, is intended to and is supposed to measure determined from the perspective of a test taker or expert. In this study people which are not part of the study could be asked if they believe that verbal errors is a good measure of verbal fluency. Question 12. Briefly explain one reason why it is important for research to undergo a peer review process. 2 marks. Peer review helps to establish whether the research is appropriate for publication. Reviewers check the suitability of the terminology and language used for the target audience, making necessary revisions to enhance comprehension when needed. Reviewers also verify the originality of the work, checking that the work is not plagiarized or copied to uphold academic integrity. Read the item and then answer the question that follows. The psychologist focused on fluency in spoken communication in her study. Other research has investigated sex differences in nonverbal behaviors such as body language and gestures. 13. Design an observation study to investigate sex differences in nonverbal behavior of males and females when they are giving a presentation to an audience. 12 marks. In your answer you should provide details of the task for the participants, The behavioral categories to be used and how the data will be recorded. How reliability of the data collection might be established. Ethical issues to be considered. The task for participants. Participants will be divided into men and women and asked to give a presentation on their hobbies. The behavioral categories used and how the data will be recorded. Researchers will look for non-verbal behaviors, including arm movements, smiling, pointing and eye contact. The behaviors should be recorded using event sampling, as it is more representative of all behaviors displayed. The behaviors should be recorded on a record sheet and recorded via video and sound in order for the researchers to watch back and determine reliability and validity. The reliability of the data should be established through inter-observer reliability, the extent to which different raters or evaluators agree in assessing a particular phenomenon, behavior, or characteristic. Multiple observers or raters are chosen to independently evaluate the same set of subjects or items. Observers use a standardized set of criteria or a scoring system to assess the subjects, e.g., devising a set of categories and agreeing upon operationalized definitions together. This helps ensure that everyone is using the same guidelines when making their evaluations. Each observer independently rates the same subjects. For instance, they might score behaviors on a scale from 1 to 5 based on their observations. Once the ratings are collected, researchers analyze the data to determine how much agreement there is between the observers. This can be done using various statistical methods including Cohen's kappa, measures agreement between two raters while accounting for the possibility of agreement occurring by chance, and intraclass correlation coefficient, ICC, used when there are more than two raters and assesses the consistency of ratings across multiple observers. The results will yield a reliability score. A score close to 1 indicates high agreement, good reliability, while a score closer to 0 indicates low agreement, poor reliability. Ethical issues that need to be considered in this study include lack of informed consent, lack of privacy and confidentiality, and deception. Lack of informed consent. Researchers should ask participants to put consent forms prior to completing the study. Alternatively, researchers could gain presumptive consent from a similar group of people to the participants or retrospective consent from the participants after they have completed the study. Lack of privacy and confidentiality. Researchers should always give participants the right to withdraw and make sure that participants are aware of this right. The participants' identities should be kept anonymously and no names or personal information should be published in the study. Deception. Participants should be told the full aim of the study, and if there is another condition that the participants aren't participating in, they should be made aware of this condition. Participants should also be given a full debrief and reminded that they have the right to withdraw. A cost-benefit analysis should be conducted before the study begins to see if the potential benefits outweigh the costs and could offer some benefit to the wider society, even if there is a risk that ethical issues will arise or the research is socially sensitive, then there is some leeway for the study to be conducted. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.